All right, it is 7:00 p.m. It is the time noticed and advertised for the February 20th, 2017 Aleppo Legislative Meeting. I call the meeting to order. Let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's have a roll call vote, please. A roll call, please.
President Dobler.
Present.
Vice President Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Scholar. Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Darrow.
Present.
Solicitor Stone.
Here.
Manager Patterson. Here.
We have a quorum present. Before I begin, you see the sign behind me. Our meetings are recorded. Please be advised that everything you say in here is recorded and posted onto YouTube. It stays around forever and ever and ever. So be on your best behavior and don't say anything you don't want to have get out. Okay? We have a motion to approve our workshop meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda is a presentation by Susan Hockenberry of the Quaker Valley Council of Governments. Susan, welcome.
Good evening. Not just me.
Well, the agenda only says
I
Susan,
know.
so you're the only one that's allowed to talk.
You want to introduce John Sebastian?
Sure. John Sebastian is also here. He's the president of the Quaker Valley Council of Governments Board of Directors.
So since we're being recorded, can we stay put? Can we stay right here?
No, come to the podium, please.
I'm a little taller than that podium.
No, you'll be all right.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Harlan, Arthur, George, good to see you again. Ian, hello.
Hi.
So we were here just a little under 5 months ago for a listening session for what we were calling COG 2.0. I have a lot of papers. And we wanted to come back this evening. We're visiting you and Sewickley Borough this evening to give you an update on the progress at Quaker Valley COG. Provide you some information about the outcomes of that survey and those meetings, as well as a half-day strategic planning session that the Quaker Valley COG Board of Directors conducted in January. So what I have for you is a snapshot front and back of the outcomes from that reboot discussion, as well as a summary of member services dated February 2017. So Kim, will you pass that around for me? And the other thing I have for you, how do I do that? There we go. There. The thing I have for you is analog PowerPoint, right? This is another update of the PowerPoint presentation. So I need about 10 minutes of your time. Is that okay? Does that work on your agenda?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so the purpose here is, and do you want to say anything at the top? Just want to chime in when necessary?
No, I think you're doing great. Again, we're here just to establish some strong communication links between the COG and the municipality, so that's part of this approach.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so what's been happening, what are our priorities, and what are our processes moving forward? And then don't forget, the real reason for our visit tonight is your prize of 80% response rate to the survey. And I didn't plan on a tie when I offered that prize, so I've been very busy. But congratulations, and we appreciate that you had an 80% response rate, and you and Sewickley Borough of all the member communities were most generous with your time and gave of your input. We very much appreciate that. We did survey all 14 municipalities, and we got about a third of the elected officials participating, which is probably a pretty good survey response. And we have identified the 4 main areas of concern expressed through that: around budget and fiscal matters, governance and operations, fighting blight and community development, and infrastructure. As I mentioned, we did a half-day strategic planning session, which Matt participated in, which was very productive and a lot of good ideas expressed that day. And we've met with all 14 of the governing boards, as well as numerous community leaders, both state and federal, elected officials, their staffs, county government, numerous meetings and events to engage the broader community. We also adopted a budget in that time frame. When we were here back on October 10th, we had yet to do that. And we were working diligently to update systems and processes in the COG to serve you better. The mission statement is listed there on page 2. That's a work in progress. I think that's the big takeaway I'd like to give you for this presentation tonight. And that is that this is an emerging organization. It's a reboot. That's the language we've been using. And the restating of the mission statement at this point in time is well timed. So the COG's a nonprofit. It's a facilitator of multi-municipal efforts towards the goal of implementing efficient and cost-effective programs on behalf of its members. And when I was here in October, we talked about why the Quaker Valley Corridor, why the 65 corridor was so well-positioned to lead in terms of intergovernmental cooperation. And I think that this mission statement still expresses an intent to do that. Also coming out of that in community engagement, this Venn diagram about what should the priorities of the COG be. So working together on 3 interconnected priorities: administrative support and capacity building, public works and infrastructure, and Route 65, the corridor, the economic and community development opportunities that presents, but also the challenges it presents for our communities, having that both asset and concern within our backyard. A number of the programs that are currently active at the COG are presented there on that following slide. We're actively lining up a capital improvements plan to serve all 14 communities. It will also help to inform COG programs and community development block grant administration. We're making rapid progress on developing COG-wide geographic information systems. The Uniform Construction Code Board of Appeals has been reactivated with full appointment. Route 65 corridor planning, and this is in more detail on the card stock that I passed out, the description of these items that are on page 3. We're really excited to be partnering with Remaking Cities Institute at Carnegie Mellon on that project. Blight Fight, MS4 compliance, Clean Water Initiative, public education, financial management services, many educational and networking opportunities, cable TV, franchise representation, solid waste and recycling, and a public works survey and foreman's group. I like surveys, don't I, Glenn? I think I'm getting a bad reputation as liking a lot of surveys with the managers group. The next page, we continue to address organizational challenges. And a lot of this came out of the strategic planning session. Matt, I think you'll recognize a number of these items that we pinged that day. Improving communication, technology, organizational sustainability, member services, and renewed governance. That's a good example, bylaws review and bylaws update, which Matt has been leading and contributing significantly to. Just a quick note on the issue of sustainability. We've taken serious consideration and serious steps to stem the COG's loss of financial position. You can see I present there the history there of revenues or expenditures exceeding revenues for the last 5 years. It is anticipated that there will be a use of fund balance again in 2017, significantly less than prior years due to the increase in dues and some other revenue enhancements. But we're not in a situation where you could say that the COG is achieving a critical policy goal of current revenues equaling current expenditures yet. Number of management concerns are being addressed, and I won't go into all of those. And also, adopting an attitude of entrepreneurialism, setting a goal of achieving 40% of our operations revenue through project income grant revenue, dues being relevant to the cost of operations and examined regularly as part of an ongoing dialogue. The dues conversation is part of dialogue. It's a values conversation with our members, and we embrace having that on an ongoing basis. And fees for services when appropriate. So where do we go from here? What's possible? As you know, I think we need to continue as a larger community, the 30,000 of us that make up the communities of the Quaker COG. Quaker Valley COG. We need to continue to think about the role and purposes of COGS. They are enabled by Pennsylvania Constitution and legislature. They exist to overcome the barriers within those municipal codes, those constraints that you've experienced on a day in and day out, working together with your neighbors to overcome those. However, there's no magic, formula from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania handed to you to do that. It's up to the local communities to decide what to make of those powers and to develop flexible solutions based on shared concerns. So looking forward, we'll continue to build on the traditional contractual relationship that is, typical of COGS and their member communities, the COGS doing joint purchasing and those sort of joint contracts that everyone's familiar with. That's sort of the existing understanding of the first 40 years of intergovernmental cooperation in Pennsylvania, but also to continue to expand our shared understanding of the municipal relationship. Again, being in a period of reboot and a restart provides us an opportunity that other organizations don't have, and we shouldn't waste that opportunity to continue to expand our understanding and build better community relations. We're talking about the committees, we're talking about the structure of the COG. I mentioned the bylaws. One of the things that's coming out of that is a more formalized project and program identification process, not just identifying them, but ideation, which is sort of like brainstorming on steroids, right? The PI team is something you'll be seeing emerge in the coming months, and meetings to have more of a significance to you in your communities, and have quarterly regional convenings as well as our monthly meetings. So March 15th, we're lining up some speakers to attend at the Bellevue location, and also in September, some of those meetings that I've had with the legislative staff of state and federal officials. We've honed in on September as the date to have that legislative confab. So look ahead for those regional convenings to be performed by the COG in assistance to you. How are we doing on our COG 2.0 progression? So you can see a couple of things that have check marks there. That these are things that we said back in October that we would do, and that is work on identifying connections with members as part of the reboot and conduct an organizational strategic plan. We can check both of those off as completed, but the other big one that we mentioned that day was feedback loops, and I guess this relates to communication as well. Here's some examples of the types of feedback loops that will be working with you on an ongoing basis. Proposals to you for programs, resolutions, actual intergovernmental cooperation agreements, charges, fees, and reports and evaluation. Back to project. So what's the project ideation team do? Focuses on those three areas in the Venn diagram that I referred to at the top of my presentation: administrative support and capacity building, public works and infrastructure, and 65 corridor economic and community development, and works around projects that would be the mechanisms to work on those priorities would be those bulleted items there on that slide: planning and coordination, administrative and contractual activities, fiscal and intergovernmental revenue, shared services, and structures. So that's the progress that we're experiencing. I am more excited than ever about the potential of this corridor, our necklace of communities. I tell people we are the best COG. Organizationally, we may have our challenges, but what makes us the best is our communities, and that we have so much in common to work with. We have our own challenges. We don't have many of the challenges facing other communities intergovernmentally. So we're making forward progress. We continue to rely on Matt and appreciate what he's doing. Arthur, I think I heard a rumor that you're the new alternate. So
You've got it in the slide, so it must be true.
yeah, that's I heard that.
It made it all the way up to your office, right?
So I'm thrilled to hear that. Just because you're the alternate, he could slip on the parking lot on the way in. So you can come to any meeting, and
You have to understand.
you're welcome to
It
join us.
requires 2 weeks notice.
Sorry, yeah, they don't give me 2 weeks notice when they can't make it, so you can't have that either. So let me pause with that. Thank you for your attention for that presentation. Again, this is easier.
No, I want you to
Yeah.
talk about this.
Yeah, well, I just did.
This part though. I mean, speak in particular about, because I
Yeah.
thought this was very helpful.
So back on your slides here, when I rattled those off, that exactly mirrors that. So let me pause and ask you if you have any questions about any of those. That list is exactly the same.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about what is the remaking cities with
Yeah.
at CMU.
65. So Remaking Cities is actually in architecture and design, right? It's not in the Heinz School. So it's about the various, let's think of segments of 65 and how they have different. And how do we identify potential projects that improve the quality of life, reduce problems that we have around 65 in a way that isn't just another study. That's what we're working on with Remaking Cities. Remaking Cities will actually perform that analysis as part of academic research that will then inform PennDOT about their definitions of a corridor. We will be the case study for that, and as we go along, we will identify those projects, which then empowers us to go back to PennDOT and say, hey, your road runs through our town. We have a vision of how the towns interact with the highway. We would like you to. We expect you to do it this way, which is always their reply when you sort of complain about any highway. They're like, well, show us your local plan. Well, we'll actually have that. And by the way, it will be hopefully the one that they sponsored. So that's what we're going through making.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
So you think you could get PennDOT to do something about the Route 65 Boundary Street intersection?
I think that certainly safety is one of those concerns that is ubiquitous. So.
It's not only in this area, it's Wickley, it's also Bellevue, so it is a major problem. We've received a lot of information regarding this, and I think we'll be looking into this.
Yeah, you're not the first person to mention a intersection, not just that intersection.
Had a couple near misses.
Yes, well, right, and we just, this presentation was made at the Quaker Valley COG Board of Directors meeting just this last Wednesday for the first time. And actually, the corridor does actually extend beyond the county line, so let's look holistically at that. Because the more we do together, the more influence we'll have with state agencies.
Now, are these documents all public documents at this point? Maybe
Well, that
distributed?
one certainly is. I'm rolling those out.
Okay.
That I have customized one for each community. So,
But I mean, I can share these with other people in Aleppo.
Sure.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the chili.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, John Sebastian.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
For,
Thanks.
local
Thank you,
support,
Susan.
very good.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All
All
right.
right. Good turnout.
See you later.
All right, Chief, Public Safety. Did you bring us chili?
Brought you paper. Tastes like some chili. This is the study that I think I got enough for everybody here. Let me make sure these guys all get one first. Yeah, we can get here.
While you're distributing these, let me ask the same question I asked Susan. Is this okay to be distributed publicly?
Yeah, it's just from that computer
Perfect.
generated Trax Pro equipment.
Okay.
Give one extra, Chief.
I got 3 here.
Could you give one to Tom, please?
Sure, sorry, Tom. Sorry, buddy. That is the, anybody else need one? We okay?
Our engineer.
Yeah, sure. No, he's seen these. This is a Trax Pro. I don't know what you guys use, but they're fairly reliable. I mean, they have been in the past. That's a data summary, 13-day period, 4,812 vehicles were clocked. Now that's going both ways. So that's coming in, coming out. And in the 13-day period, 530 of those vehicles exceeded the speed limit, 424 exceeded the speed limit by 1 to 10 miles per hour, and 6 exceeded it by 11 to 20 miles per hour. Average speed travel was 25 miles per hour. So he puts that in the qualifiers. In accordance to Section 70, Title 75, this is the vehicle code. We have to allow, with the devices that we use for speed checking, we have to allow 10 mile an hour. over, you have to. Hence why it's called speeding. I mean, if we cited people for going 26 mile an hour, is that speeding? So somewhere along the line, legislators decided that 10 mile an hour over the speed limit was considered speeding. So with that in mind, only 6 vehicles exceeded the speed limit between 11 and 20 miles per hour. So that 524 are all within the 10 mile over range. But your average speed is 25, which is pretty good. Those other pages, that's going to be every day. That's going to show you detailed on the speeds, the percentage of vehicles in that range, and the times. So it kind of gives you an idea. You can see that during the day you have all your traffic, and then towards the evening and night you have very little traffic. As a comparison, we've done numerous studies like this, and I went back and found one that was actually from the Ridge. And in a 9-day period, we clocked 4,774 vehicles. So this is a 13-day period, you had 4,800. So you kind of, similar amount of homes up in the Ridge as opposed to from Weber on back. I don't know. What do you think, Tom? More homes in the Weber and back?
Yeah,
A couple, yeah. It's more congested in the Ridge, but they're more spread out back there. But I don't know exactly. But you got a 9-day period, a 13-day period, and they're fairly similar. Actually, the Ridge would seem like it would have produced more had it been run out to a 13-day period.
Do you remember where you were positioned on the ridge?
I think down by the yes, sir.
So people would be going,
That would be the highest, quickest point. Any questions on that?
So would you conclude from your study that the data indicates that there doesn't appear to be a significant safety problem with the way the roads currently utilized?
Not as far as the speed limit. No, the speeds are very consistent, and your average speed is 25 mile an hour, and the it's a very small percentage that are actually speeding.
Right.
So as far as other ones that I've done in the past, this is good. This is good.
And where exactly was this? Where was this located? It's on Weber Road and where?
Coming down the hill, just past Leewood.
Weber Road, just past Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's where it was from. You see it up?
Yeah.
Just below it.
Chief, I had the opportunity to travel every mile of Aleppo roads with our engineer and Tom just last week. And this study that you did, commendable, and apparently very valuable. So, good. And I guess, not to take advantage, but would you do it in other places?
Anytime.
Thank you.
No problem.
Seems like it. Right.
Yeah, we have one machine, and as it gets towards spring, it tends to get a lot
Yeah.
more use. That's when, the speeding starts to increase. But if something in mind for Kips Holler, we'll be glad to.
Ben, am I correct?
Yes, having traffic data on all your roads is beneficial for roadway planning. That's obviously if kind of roadway management planning, if you know which roads get the most traffic, they tend to be the ones that degrade the quickest and probably need the most attention. So having traffic data is another variable useful.
Chief, the purpose of our travels were to determine the condition of the roads, what the best repairs would be, the length of time we can anticipate. So road studies are very important to that analysis.
Yeah, we'll be glad to. It's not a big deal. It's a matter of you can puts it on the pole, sets it up, and then takes it down and pulls it out.
Oh.
It's really not a difficult time.
This was valuable, so thank you.
Sure.
Yep. All right,
Anything else on that?
that's it.
Okay, go to my report. Alarms Residence 2, Alarms Business 1. Let me go through here. Fraud case, this was up in the manor. It was individual had gone on the computer, the one that flashes malware, and then they give you numbers to call, and they gave the credit card number, and we were able to help them out and keep their information from going any further than this company. Another fraud case, this one, the individual was having things charged to their charge card, probably picked it up somewhere, so we advised that they cancel the cards as soon as possible. This was a domestic family matter with a young child acting up. A couple fire calls. These were, they weren't fires, they were just ventilation and smoke ventilation, and the other one was someone pulled one of the fire alarms up in the manor. Vehicle lockouts, one, a suspicious person. This turned out to be someone that was picking someone up at the village. They dropped one individual off so he could have a cigarette, and he began coughing, and someone called the police. Trees down, animal complaint. This is good. Individual thought that a stray animal had wandered into her basement, but she heard the squeaking in the utility room. Turns out it was the pump for the radiant floor, and it wasn't an animal, it was a squeaky pump. I don't make this stuff up.
You couldn't.
And that's all I have. Yeah, the other one was with the juvenile that was having some problems with bullying type activity, and it was handled with our guys and the school resource officer can figure out. And that's my report. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Questions? All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Fire Department,
No report.
Emergency Management,
No report.
Public Works.
I'm sure you've seen the colors.
No, tell us what's going on.
Well, these are solid color stain colors that we talked about before putting these signs up to do something with the posts. These are colors, I mean, you can look at and say, yes, no. Look at some more colors, or even just put a clear seal on the post that are there now. I mean, it's entirely up to you.
Do you have a recommendation?
Well, the only one about this one, it has
Mildew.
mildew resistant, this one right here, which is, you can see the signs that have been
That's
up
a good
in the
thing.
township through the years. So I mean,
Are there others?
well, there's others. That's semi-transparent, but they don't have the mildew resistant.
Go back to the mildew, please.
No, it's too bright green. That's too bright green.
It's going to change in a week. But, so you like the second one, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we get that in mildew proof?
Out to see, because this is a Benjamin Moore. You can see if we do making it, it's semi-transparent, this one is. I mean, you can look into it. If that's what
Can you take the sign to the hardware store and have them actually make a match of the color?
we can try it.
I know they
There's no
do
guar-
that. I
there's-
know
they do, there's no guarantee though, it's gonna.
This is not paint, right? This
No,
is stain.
it's a stain.
So I don't know if they can mix
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they can-
stain the same way they
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Okay.
Sure they
can.
So we want a mildew resistant that matches the sign as close as you can come.
The green on the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remembering that it will change 1 week after it's out. And it will get darker. Is that all right?
We'll give it a shot, whatever you want. Whatever you want done, we'll do.
You just putting that in front of me?
I just moved that.
Gwen, what do you think? Gwen?
Gwen, what do you think?
Yeah. Thanks. I was thinking more of like a wood stain, not a paint. I mean, I know that's a stain technically, but it looks like paint to me. So I was, when we talked about staining it, I was thinking something more like,
So you could match the color of the
not even
perimeter.
matching, just kind of just
Just a wood color.
Yeah, just to spiff up the posts into just a wood color.
Because they're just bare wood now, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, there was a seal put on them years ago, but nothing been done to them since. Just like your deck,
Oh, my deck's stained.
well, I know that, but I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of people just put a clear on them, but over time it dries out of it, so. But, no, we'll take the sign down and see if they can come up with something.
Okay.
And,
Is that all right, Gwen?
Hey, carry on.
Here do I.
And we'll give the sample back to you next month so you can say yes or no.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, on the report, I mean, we cleaned out catch basins throughout the township with the rains and stuff. Supposed to be winter, but. I don't know if you noticed, put up new stop signs on Strictly Ridge Circle and on Rockledge. Did you notice new stop signs with the red reflectors on the post?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't notice? Okay.
they look great though. Thanks.
We put up a new mirror on Mitchell, the wind blew off. We had to get a new mirror. This might be the last time, because I think the trees have been cut back. And I honestly, after this, I don't think there'll be a need for a mirror up there, because the line of sight's good on Glen Mitchell,
This is Glenn Mitchell and what?
Super Hedge Drive. As you come out to the end of Super Hedge Drive,
Looking at Fern Hollow.
they,
I didn't even know there was one there.
okay. And, of course, Sullivan Pond roads. And, we put up new signs on School Street, which we showed you on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
to hopefully deter any more heavy trucks going up from the bottom with the incident we had.
In case everybody doesn't know that incident, why don't you briefly describe what happened?
We had a tractor trailer go up School Street, and he made it up past our property a little ways and tried to turn around in Kerr's driveway. Had the trailer against the telephone pole, and the tractor was over in the dirt, so I had to call in a big record to come in. That was all morning. And then we brought Ben in to determine the extent of damage to the road down there, which he can give you a better idea than me. But it was a fluke. I mean,
He just got lost?
well,
We think GPS still
GPS, we
sends,
think everybody up School Street.
Yeah, GPS does.
so we put, Tom ordered signs, what was the weight limit, 10 tons or something?
10 times.
10-ton weight limit, and then road narrows in a bright green so that it catches your eye. So if you start to go up there, maybe you just back out rather than try to turn around. So
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be a deterrent.
And then after this last windstorm we had a lot of cleanup, trees and stuff, so forth. So it was a busy morning between salting and going out and cleaning up.
All right, our agenda has discussion of street parking during snow events. Have we had a snow event since?
We haven't had a big snow event. I mean, nothing major. I mean, as far as plowing.
Right.
It's still a little bit of hassle when you're still weaving in and out, even salting, because you're going in and out of cars.
And so I guess just for the benefit of the record, I mean, the point of this conversation is that last month we discussed people not parking, especially on Rockledge Drive, but really on any township
Yeah.
roads, parking on the road in a way that's going to interfere with the snowplow when you can plainly tell that the snowplow is going to have to come through. And again, the hope is that by just talking about it and explaining to people that you're interfering with the snowplow, we will avoid the unpleasant business of having to post signs or pass some sort of regulation that says that we can't have parking there either permanently or during snow events. So please don't park on the road during snow events. Fair enough? Okay. School Street and Hill Road paving bids. Ben, I'm sorry, do we have any questions for Tom before we change gears? Anybody have any questions? All right.
Just a comment that as far as Google's concerned, there is no School Street. Google shows it as Merriman Road all the way down.
I can believe it.
So it's likely that they may be more apt to do a turn rather than going straight up.
Wait, Google shows it correct or incorrect?
He's saying
Incorrect.
Incorrect.
He's saying the name.
Let's talk about,
Yep.
We can fix that. That can be fixed.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, this morning, HRG opened bids for the paving project in Aleppo Township. This was actually the last year's paving project that no bids were received. We received 4 bids from Youngblood Paving, Russell Standard Corporation, El Grande Industries, and Mealy & Sons. The apparent low bidder was Youngblood Paving in the amount of $51,781.96. HRG's engineering estimate was a little over $58,000, so it's under budget. We've worked with Youngblood in the past. They are a good contractor and do good work. It's our recommendation that the township awards the bid to Youngblood pending HRG's review of all the contract documents, insurances, and agreement.
And the range of the other bids?
The next low bid was Russell Standard Corporation at $59,946.60. And El Grande Industries was at $60,599.65, and the high bid was a little over $65,000. So they were fairly tight and competitive.
Did El Grande do Overbrook?
They were the ones that did, yes, Overlook and the other paving projects, so your last significant paving event. So
Tom, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Are you aware of the vendors?
Yeah. Youngblood, I mean, they've been doing a lot for Swift Heights the last couple of years, already different airlines. They're very happy with
Good.
the quality of their guy.
any other questions?
Is there a particular part of the bid that causes the low bid to be 8,000 lower?
I'm not seeing, the variation is pretty tight, and I have bid tabulations if everybody wants them. But I think it's just a couple cents, here or there, difference between the material cost, installation, and mobilization. So, nothing way out of,
Nothing causes you concern.
no, they're pretty consistent. So, I think they're pretty tight. And they're right around our estimate, so I'm happy with them.
Subject to the conditions identified by Ben in his recommendation, I move that we accept the low bid.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? And so just for the sake of the record, your motion is that we accept the paving from Youngblood Paving, is that correct?
Correct, conditional on HRG's review of their insurances and agreements.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's take a roll call vote, please.
President Whitmore,
Yes?
Vice President Jones,
Yes?
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Darrow.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Good job, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other item on the agenda, the stormwater pipe on Swiftly Ridge Drive. I'd have to look up the exact date that quotes are due, but I believe it was the Wednesday before your workshop meeting, so we'll have those in early March. So we can review, hopefully make a decision and award and get that work started once the weather breaks. I know that Swiftly Ridge has some other work ongoing, and we want to make sure that's done prior to that work. So we've reached out to, I believe, 8 different contractors to receive quotes on that work.
You think we'll have those when?
I believe it's March 8th, but I know it was prior to your workshop. I'll have to verify the exact date.
All right. Any other questions for Ben? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Communications. I don't have any report. Planning and zoning. Tax collector.
Clay couldn't be here tonight, but you have his spreadsheets in your packet. It's the first month of the year, so I really don't. If you just want me to read off the taxes collected, or you just want
Sure.
to have your,
Just
okay.
read them into the record, please.
Property tax, $1,222.38. Realty transfer tax, $5,367.95. Earned income tax, $10,226.99. Local services tax, $216.09, and business privilege tax, $5, for a total of $17,038.41. And just so you know, the bulk of our property taxes, the bills go out March 1st, so we expect large sums in March and April.
All right. Treasurer,
I do not have a treasurer.
finance. There's nothing,
Do you expect Clay to deliver those reports to you?
Yes, yes.
Can you then deliver them to us?
Yes.
And the audit begins for 2/16 when?
Spring. It was still.
Couple months?
Couple months.
yep. There's two motions on the agenda. Anybody feel
Move
sprightly?
to approve the January bill list in the amount of $73,458.14. To ratify the January prepaid bills in the amount of $17,461.99. And to ratify January payroll transfer in the amount of $16,579.32.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
also move that we transfer $14,266.12 from the liquid fuels fund to the general fund for payment of road salt invoices.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Anything else on finance? All right, Aleppo Township Authority.
Nothing much, except that we have new members starting on the authority tomorrow, tomorrow. Paula Tapia, who we interviewed some number of months ago, I think it was November. And she's very much looking forward to participating in that. And I know that the chairman is happy to have another body as well. There has been some discussion on the meeting times. We're going to bring it up this next meeting. We have lost one member of the board due to a conflict with his work and the 3:30 time for the meeting. And last meeting, there was a young lady here who said that she was interested in perhaps joining. I know Gwen was all over like a new suit. And she could not attend the meetings in the middle of the afternoon. So I think that's a basis for discussion, and we'll let you know what the outcome is.
Great.
And we have another vacancy?
We have
Question
another,
mark?
yes,
And is Michael back?
yes,
So both new members will be there tomorrow?
yes.
Great.
All right. Quaker Valley COG, I think Susan's report pretty much summed it up. Won't get into any more of that. Ambulance Authority?
No.
MS4?
As Susan mentioned in her presentation, one of the initiatives that the COG is doing is the MS4 compliance and the Clean Water Initiative. And so we are taking advantage of the training that and the community outreach things. There was a fertilizer presentation at Fern Hollow, and there will be other kinds of outreach and education programs coming up, and we're going to be taking advantage of the COG's lead on that.
Solicitor?
Not as such, I don't have a report, but I will have some things to comment on in executive session, update you on the Sonic litigation and related matters. I know at the last meeting, you tasked me with a few things to look into. I didn't know if they're listed here under your.
Yeah, let's get to those when we get down in the,
Right, so so the only other thing I have is my comments in executive session.
excellent. Okay, old business, becoming a Live Well Allegheny community. Commissioner Scollard's not here. I move that we kick that down to next month.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. We'll talk about it next month. Thank you. Glen Mitchell Road corridor improvement. We got a couple different things to talk about here. So why don't we start on Solicitor Stone, your report on the cleanup of the lot on Glen Mitchell Road, what you were tasked with that.
Okay, so I did prepare a short summary that I asked Gwen to disseminate. I think you probably all got it. It really boils down to this, that in order to regulate what you have there, if you want to regulate it as a junk yard, then you look at your junkyard ordinance. And if it's a junkyard and we look at our junkyard ordinance, there are things we could do to tweak that ordinance, to beef it up, to make it a little tougher as it applies to sites like the Sewickley site. But it sort of begs the bigger question when I got into the research was when I looked at the definition of junkyard in our junkyard ordinance, it contemplates conducting a junkyard as a business. Now, there are municipalities, I'm aware of several, that actually have junk dealers, and they have junkyards and they buy and sell junk in and out of that junkyard. And I would think that would be, in a strict sense, a junkyard business. Whether what Sewickley is doing there qualifies as conducting a business, I don't know.
So there's an "or" in the language of the ordinance that says "or uses their property for the storage of junk."
Yeah, but I read that
I know the language is a little bit sloppy.
it's a little. I think the way that clause is drafted and where the comma is gives me a little bit of concern about, even if they're storing it, they're storing it for business
Is there any
purposes.
reason we can't fix it so it's clear that it applies to what they're doing?
Well, you could, and
I was coming home from church on Sunday. I was following a dump truck up the Glen Mitchell Road, and they stopped, opened the gate, and pulled in there. And in the back of the truck, there was a bunch of old pipe and tree limbs and all kinds of other garbage.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they were just dumping it back there.
yeah, I think we could do that. We don't have that. My concern is that's not what we have now. I think we could do that. My comment on that would be, if we're going to do that, are there going to be other sites that are non-business or non-commercial where people are storing stuff like what you're talking about or dumping things there, and that we would also be bringing into that regulation? So if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we could have residential properties, and we could have residential property owners who are storing materials similar to what Sewickley's doing. We would have to enforce that ordinance against them as well. I mean, if we were called upon, if we got complaints.
I mean, I guess I share Commissioner Dara's question about the reading of the ordinance, and I'm looking at the 232-1. It shall be unlawful for any corporation to operate or conduct a business within the township as a junk dealer, or to use or allow to be used his, her, or its property as a junkyard, salvage yard, or other place used and maintained for the collection, storage, and disposal of used and secondhand goods and materials without first obtaining a license. So I read that to eliminate the unnecessary language that says it shall be unlawful for a corporation to operate within the township or allow to be used its property for the collection, storage, and disposal of secondhand goods.
Or, right, isn't there another?
Yeah,
or?
but there's more ors, it's not ands.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm saying if you eliminate the unnecessary clauses around the ors,
Okay, it may be, and I don't have it in front of me, but if that is the case, because I do raise in the memo, okay, first, I mean, that would be the first step. Do we have a junkyard? And if that is true, then if it is a junkyard, then it needs to be permitted. We do have a permitting requirement for that.
Right.
Our permitting requirement then is where I'm thinking we could make it.
The permitting, you can't get a permit without appropriate screening.
Right, we could definitely impose tougher conditions on the permitting requirements. So for example, two things that I did pick up on, which I thought would be very effective. The one would be imposing a bond requirement on junkyards for environmental cleanup and things like that. So if the owners of the junkyard had to actually go out and bond it for any period of time, that might also increase your, the level of your level of regulation. So I did cite one that I picked up in the research, and I thought it was pretty good. The second requirement that you could do is, in addition to bonding it, that I liked is you could also create a requirement that I saw where it has to be so many feet, not just so many feet in setback from a road, but it has to be non-visible to any public roadway. So if you make as a condition for the permit that the junk is non-visible from any roadway, that might also eliminate some of the problems you're having.
The current ordinance has a requirement to get a permit that has to be appropriately screened. If it's going to be appropriately screened, it means it's not visible from off the property.
where's that, Dan?
It's down.
Yeah, there's a screen. Yeah, but I think making it non-visible from the roadway almost suggests a vegetative buffer rather than just a screen.
I think if we have the ability to require appropriate screening, it's our ability to determine what we think is appropriate. And it clearly wouldn't just be vegetation, particularly at this time of the year.
Actually, it doesn't say screen. It says, I'm looking at section 232-3. The secretary of the township shall not be authorized to issue any license unless the applicant for such license can demonstrate to the satisfaction of the secretary that the property for which a license is sought as a junkyard has been properly fenced, and that no junk, scrap, or other secondhand materials or metals shall be stored or placed within 75 feet of any public road in the township, and shall not be closer than 25 feet to any adjoining property line, blah, blah, blah. Is that where you were?
Well, fence would be also chain links, which
Yeah.
would not be at.
Fencing wouldn't do it.
No.
I guess where I'm coming from is I think there's enough in the current ordinance for us to make Swiftly aware of the fact that they need to do something, that they need to stop forcing us around about it. There's also a provision in there that says you can't even get a permit if you haven't been doing this since 1958.
Well, I hesitated to ask how long this has been going on because I wasn't sure what the answer was
It's
going
the
to
very
be.
last subdivision.
But I do agree with you. If you come to the conclusion that you,
I'm sorry. Dan's right. Commissioner Dare's right. Shall I be closing the blah, blah, blah. I blah, blah, blah over the most important part. Provided further that said property for which the license is sought shall be properly screened from all adjoining properties. And the junkyard has been in continuous operation prior to October of 1958. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
so no, that's fine. So where I was going with that is, and Gwen and I have talked about this. If you feel and I don't necessarily, I'm just pointing out where I think some of the ambiguities might be, but if you feel that ordinance is dealing with junkyards and you got a junkyard, then we have every right to enforce the ordinance, both with respect to permitting and violations. So there's no if that's the case, then the next step would be to have our our zoning officer put together a notice of violation, which I would work with him on, and notify Sewickley of the violation, give them so many days to come into compliance or else, and that's pretty standard operating procedure.
And I think Sewickley's view is this is a zoning issue and that they qualify as a prior non-conforming use, whereas this ordinance is totally unrelated to the zoning code.
Correct.
And we're entitled to implement this at any point in time in terms of regulating what they're doing on the property.
Correct. It has nothing to do with the
Pure
zoning.
exercise of police power.
Correct. It's a health safety ordinance. It has nothing to do, well, it doesn't have anything. It's not that it has nothing to do with the zoning, but it's independent of the zoning. You are correct.
And just while we're talking about Sewickley's position, I should read an email that I received from Susan, who is the president of the Sewickley Board of
Council.
The Sewickley Council. Yeah. Hi, Matt. After receiving your December 13th email, I asked staff to review the Aleppo/Sewickley files regarding the initial action on the property. When it's available, I can have that information forwarded to you and or Gwen. I will also follow up with Kevin, Susan. That was received on January 29th. So do we take action? Anybody have a motion they're going to put forward?
I would move that we have the zoning officer do an appropriate inspection to determine whether the property is in non-compliance with the junkyard ordinance, and depending on the outcome of that inspection, to work with council to take appropriate action to bring Sewickley into compliance.
Second.
All right, there is a motion and a second. Did you get the whole? That was a long. You got it on the recording. Okay. Okay. So does everybody understand exactly what's being voted on?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay. Go ahead and just have Jeff get in touch with you.
All right. So then that was issue number 1 on Glen Mitchell Road cleanup. Issue number 2 was that last month we voted to have Jeff go and see about tires at Norm Meiner's facility and to go see if the police could have voluntary compliance there.
He did. The police officer went up to his Norms and talked about both the junk cars and the tires. And it was a positive conversation, and the officer gave him 30 days to get the property cleaned up, and we're still within that 30-day period. So.
Okay. And the tires, Jeff on the tires?
Actually, the officer addressed the tires with Norm also, and that was kind of part of, he was going to handle both of those issues through the police officer.
Okay, so we're waiting for 30 days to see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Yes.
Okay. So then I move that we table this until our next meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Third on our Glen Mitchell Road corridor improvement was the Minnick lot. Last month, we voted to have Jeff go look at that lot. And?
He did. He looked at the lot and he placed a call to Mike Minnock, and Mike said that he is working on organizing the stuff and he is going to be hauling it out with a trailer, but the ground down there is saturated right now, so he thinks the trailer would get stuck, but he is intending to move it as soon as he's able to get the equipment, the junk out safely. Not damaged.
Okay, so.
We revisit that in 60 days.
All right, so I'll take that as a motion to table this for 60 days.
Second. Yes.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. All right, talk about that in 60 days. And that does it for Glen Mitchell corridor improvement, unless anybody else has something they want to say. All right, let's move along to deer population control. Last week, we voted to have the North Suburban Archery Association come and talk to us.
I got in touch with one of their two presidents, and he's unavailable to come to, obviously tonight and into the March, but we were looking at the April meetings. And it looks like he will be available on April 17th to come and give, talk to the board and see what the board is interested in learning about their group. He did give me a little bit of facts, and he said it would be helpful if we had some idea of how many properties we would have available, keeping in mind that they generally need 2 to 3 acre minimums with trees that are big enough to get a hunter approximately 15 feet minimum off the ground. So in considering the program, we have to look at the available lots that we know of. And then once we provide them with addresses of potential properties, he surveys them to decide whether or not they are viable for their group. But and I'll be in touch with him. He's going to talk to me when he gets back to the town, so to set up the hearings.
Well, certainly at a minimum, the manor and the ridge.
The Manor Homeowners Association is already talking to this outfit.
That's it.
Do you want an update? All right, I can update. There was a questionnaire sent around to all the residents of Swiftly Heights Manor dealing with this issue, and Susan's collecting the responses.
Of course,
Do we need
the
this?
homeowners association owns most of the property other than where the houses themselves are located, so the homeowners association can grant the access.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's certainly 2-3 acres.
So I'll just email him back and say, he already knows that probably, but I'll just make sure that he knows that that's who she talked to as far as acreage.
Right.
Questions. Okay.
And there's already tree stands down the manor. They're already there.
Do you want to have the property of Masonic Village included in on this activity?
What's the observation in terms of deer traffic up there?
It's pretty heavy.
Pretty heavy?
Yeah.
Then
It's not unusual to see 14, 15 deer come marching up through there.
then I would think you would want to include it.
Yeah. There are, and I'm thinking in particular the area along High Baller Road, which of course it wasn't too long ago that we abandoned. So it's now their responsibility and from a standpoint of ownership. But that would be the only place that I know that are trees that have a substantial diameter and height that they could pick them off from there. Because we are talking about an archer and I'm an ex-archer.
Do you want to, we have to get permission from the landowner to see if they're
Right. So I'm
interested.
approach Eric.
Okay,
As soon as I have some details and so on and so forth, I'll approach it.
okay.
You need to leave?
I always hang around to make sure you guys need what you need. So if you don't need anything else, I'm glad.
Yeah, you got kids at home.
I have other work to do tonight, unfortunately, but if you need me, I'm glad to stay.
I think we're finished.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
All right. With that, let's turn. Is there anything else with deer population
Yeah,
control?
I have a question. We have the township, we have Swiftly Heights Manor, we have potentially Masonic. Who can authorize these? I mean, can Swiftly Heights Manor homeowners authorize it on their own? I don't know.
They're the property owner.
But doesn't the archery association get the necessary DEP permits and
Yes,
and game commission permits and that sort of stuff?
yes, there's no responsibility on behalf of the township to acquire their hunting.
Right. They provide their insurance,
Mhm.
so it's just a matter of providing access to the property that's going to be used.
Mhm.
Which is the responsibility of the prior property.
Not us. And interestingly, you made a comment, I'm sorry, I forget your first name.
Art Capuzzi from Weber Road.
Thank you, Art. You made the comment about the various options prior. When we talked about it last week,
In what respect?
well, you said that the deer will overpopulate themselves,
Right,
which
yes.
most species won't.
Just about every other one will not. The deer will not regulate their population to area or food source. They'll just keep having fawns. And I guess I have a question. If you're going to wait until April, it won't happen this year then? Because the doe they'll be dropping fawns by then.
Yeah, and you had also commented on how many permits they could get.
Well, I was kind of curious.
They can get as many as they can pay for. It-
I
it's-
see, all right. 3 acres, that's, do we have that type of ownership of 3 acres?
No, the
The
manor
manor does. For sure.
way more than 3 acres.
I mean, the manor's got woods that go huge, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I'd also note that the manor is checked with their liability insurance carrier, and they have no objection to the manor being engaged in such activity.
Okay.
It was my understanding that if there was the 3 acres or whatever, they could combine several lots together, get maybe 4 or 5 homeowners that would agree to it, that they wouldn't have any problem with lot size. That was my understanding from talking with Bob.
All right, well, we'll know more in April. So you're going to take care of getting here in April? Okay, sounds good. Anything else with deer population control? Planning Commission vacancy. Where do we stand?
I received, let me count just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure I got 1, 2, 3,
4,
5, got another one this afternoon, 5 letters of interest from people who were responding to the knowledge that we needed planning commission member. And last week you met Michelle Duplaga. She was here and gave her introduction to you. And then the second letter in your packet is from Rich Zarowski. Their letters are listed in the order I received them. He was unable to make the meeting tonight, but you have his letter, and he would like to come to a future meeting and introduce himself. And then you have letters from Bob Ellsworth, who's here, Lisa Mullen, who's here, and Richard Whittier, who's here also. So you have 3 interested candidates.
Great.
Well, why don't we take them in that order? Bob, why don't you come up and tell us about yourself, please?
Good evening. Name's Bob Ellsworth. I've been living in Aleppo over on Rhodes Avenue for about 2 years. Normally, once I settle into a place, I look around to get involved in some way. I happen to be on the township site looking for to answer some questions I had about recycling, waste type stuff. So when I saw that there was an opening that you all were looking for, actually it was just a generic announcement for an opening. I didn't realize it was specifically for planning and zoning. I'm not one to wait around, so since that was the only opening available, I reached out and said, sure, let me take a look and see what the skill sets are. I understand that you tend to look for people in the building trades, things along those lines, specifically for planning and zoning. I don't have that. My background's in technology. I'm an IT director for a nonprofit in Pittsburgh. I do a lot of troubleshooting, a lot of just taking data and crunching it down. I think that's where my benefit would be. That being said, if I'm not the strongest candidate for this position, I certainly plan on hanging around and wait until one opens up that is more suited to my skills or my abilities.
Do you have any interest in the Aleppo Authority?
I don't know much about it, but like I said, I've just always been very civic involved. I'm from a small town on the southern border called Point Marion, and I served on several commissions and worked with the borough council down there a lot. I like to affect where I live. I like to have a positive impact. And I'm one of those people who don't believe that if you're not involved, you can't gripe about something if you don't like it. So, I want to get involved. I want to help out in whatever that capacity is.
Do you have any business or finance background?
No. I was a active duty Marine for 9 years and technology ever since then. So.
Gotcha. What kind of technology you work in?
I do all networking, general management. I'm the IT director at a nonprofit. I've been there for about 11 years now.
Gotcha. All right. Very good. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Lisa Mullen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Mullen. I'm new to this area. I just moved here in October. I'm originally from Freedom in Beaver County. I happened to see the article in the Squiggly Herald about needing a person for the planning commission, and I was really interested in it because I want to meet new people and get involved in the community and try to help out where I could. I don't have specific experience with planning commissions, but my experience is I'm a former police officer. I worked at the town of Bridgewater as a uniformed officer. I also worked in Midland as a narcotics officer undercover. I did have a painting contracting company, so it's a little bit of what you're looking for. I've also had a lot of classes in real estate, and I could actually go get my license, but I haven't gone and done it yet. I don't know if I really want to get into it. So, excuse me, I'm getting a little bit of a cold. What else can I tell you? And I'm really looking forward to trying to meet new people here. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Same question that we had for Bob. Do you have any interest in being on the Aleppo Township Authority?
Yes.
You do, as opposed to the zoning?
I think I'd rather be in the zoning.
Okay. All right.
Well, one. And do you have any business and finance background at all?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got to say before we go further, I really appreciate the enthusiasm. You come into the neighborhood, you want to do something.
Yeah.
That's good.
Richard Whittier? Am I pronouncing that right?
Good evening, yes.
Richard Whittier.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. Let's see. My name is Richard Whittier. I'm a resident of Aleppo Township, 3 years. My address is 203 Trailside Drive, Aleppo. I have been interested in municipal planning since I was a graduate student at Drexel University. I had the opportunity there of joining a student council, and we advised Columbia, Maryland on issues of planning. And then I graduated and lost touch with everybody. But I found the planning committee to be a rewarding opportunity. Let's see.
Yeah, do you have any experience with land use regulation, land use planning, that sort of thing, land use development?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about that?
In that, I've only had one experience with advising municipal government on how to put together a new community. And one of the, but as I said, I graduated and moved on and tried to get in touch with my professors, but they were busy with the next class, I guess. So I don't know what was accepted and what was not accepted.
Mr. Whittier, what do you do? What do you do professionally?
I was a compliance officer and supervisor for OSHA.
Do you have any finance or engineering background?
No.
Would you be interested in serving on the board of directors for the Aleppo Township Authority?
Yes. As part of my educational background, I had to write papers for all my classes. And one of those papers got published in the Trade Journal for municipal government. And I wrote one that I titled Alternatives to Open Leaf Burning, where I discussed composting, mulching, and incineration. And my one professor thought it was good enough to get it published. But this is This is all a long time ago.
Right. All right, anybody have any questions for Mr. Whittier? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, then this leaves us with one additional candidate, Richard Zarobski, who could not be here today. And so he would like the opportunity to come in and speak with the board. I think the first question I kind of have is this an appointment that we need to make before next month, or can we have him come?
There's nothing pending right now.
Okay.
And there are currently 4 sitting members, so it is not, we're not in any need of a hurry to make an appointment.
Do you know if he's available to come to either of our meetings next month?
I checked with him and there was one date, I think he was not available for the workshop, but I think he might be available for the legislative, so I'll confirm that with him.
Okay, well then I would move that we postpone this till next month in the legislative meeting.
Postpone
The
all?
discussion of this, yeah. We only have one opening to speak of, so you can't really
No,
not.
but we have the authority opening.
Well, that's a different issue. We're talking
Okay.
about the planning commission.
Okay. I agree.
So is that a second?
Mm-hmm.
So the motion and a second. Does everybody understand the vote here? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming in today. We're gonna wait to talk to this one more candidate, and we'll be in touch. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. If you want to take off, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
I might suggest to the extent that they're interested in the authority position.
That was my point.
Reach out to.
I don't want to
Art
shut everything down.
And talk with Art about.
Well, that's
It's good.
If you have any interest in the authority issue, authority board, I should say, contact Gwen. She'll put you in touch with me, and we'll probably sit down and have a coffee or something.
Sounds good.
well, that's on our agenda right now. The Aleppo Township Authority.
Excuse me, Matt.
Yes.
I want to add, anybody that's interested in the authority, the meeting is tomorrow at 3:30 right here, so they could come see what the meetings are like.
Okay.
Yeah, we can observe.
And so we know that Bob and Richard, you are both interested in the option of the authority,
Yes, sir.
and you are not.
I am interested, yes. You asked if I preferred one or the other.
Okay, but you would prefer plan.
I would prefer it.
Okay.
I'm interested in that as well.
All right. So anything else on the planning commission vacancy? Then let's move on to the township authority vacancy. Try to do this decently and in order. Is there anything to do about that today? How urgent is that?
Well, we have 2 new members that are, one's brand spanking new and the other one has 2 months, so we'll be doing a lot of training. For training 2, we may as well train 3,
All right.
so we can move forward, but from a workload standpoint, there's nothing of issue that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, does anybody want to take any action on this, or you just want to stare at each other?
Well, what I suggested was that the people who are interested, all 3 are, right? Okay, so if you'll give me their names and addresses, I'll move forward on that, make contact, explain what it is that we're talking about, and then they can come back and tell us if they're serious.
Okay, so you do not want to name anybody tonight?
No.
You want to postpone this conversation for a month? Okay, I'll treat that as a motion to postpone this for a month. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, does that eliminate the possibility of naming somebody before a month?
Well, how are you're gonna come over to my house and do that?
No, that eliminates the opportunity.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
All right,
Mhm.
any further discussion on that? The motion is to postpone this conversation for 1 month. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, finish with that. Next on our agenda is a discussion of tents on Weber Road. And by way of framing this issue, when one of our residents came in here last month or a couple months ago,
It was a month ago.
he complained that there were some tent-like structures on Weber Road, and we voted to have the zoning enforcement officer go out and take a look at them. And Gwen,
Okay. Our code enforcement officer has visited the Weber Road to view the tents in question. He said that the tents are sturdy and designed to house vehicles and other items in an enclosed manner. He will be working with the residents to determine their intent regarding the length of time they plan to use the tents and the placement location of the tents.
Okay. So it sounds like he needs more time. I move that we postpone this conversation for 1 month.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Talk about it next month. All right, next on our agenda, discussion of zoning changes. And again, by way of framing this issue, when we approved the Ferndale development, we discussed the possibility that there were other undeveloped pieces of land up in the same area. And we talked about wanting to avoid getting in a situation where somebody tries to develop those and we don't have anything to say except we're stuck. So last month we voted to have our solicitor lay out some options for us. And Harlan.
And I did. I gave you, and these aren't all, this was not designed to be exhaustive, because really to be exhaustive would require us to really consult a little more closely with a consultant, a planning consultant. But just in terms of coming up with some ideas, I assumed for purposes of the analysis that the concern was that we had a large amount of our territory designated in the R2 district, which allowed for multifamily dwellings in that R2 district. Of course, townhouses are amongst those types of uses that are called multifamily. It's only one. So when we focus on townhouses in the R2 district, there are other types of multifamily that could also be put in the R2 district, which are not townhouses. In this particular situation, I think most of the concern, most of the complaints had to do with the project that's going up there now. But you made it clear to me that you didn't want to just deal with that. You wanted to deal with future possibilities and what we could do with that. So the options, as I see it, the easiest, but maybe not the most effective for the reason I just discussed, is you could eliminate the townhouse use from the permitted uses in the R2 district. You could do that without creating any exclusionary zoning problems, because there is a provision for townhouses in another district, which is your PRD district. So you would still have townhouses provided for in another district, so you could take them out of R2 altogether. That's one option. That would involve.
What's the economic impact on the value of the property and the tax base when you do that?
That's the kind of thing that, as solicitor, I can't really tell you. I'm not trying to be coy about it, but I mean, that's where a planner comes in and does that.
Right. So I read your memo, and what I took away from your memo is you're not particularly recommending just a spot zoning fix of this one particular piece of property, and that if you're going to do something, you really ought to do it the right way with a planning person that can look at comprehensively what's the most appropriate zoning across the town before we.
Yeah, it's kind of like a big chessboard. I mean, you start moving things around, and again, I can tell you what you can do and where you can do it legally, but to know what the impact is to the community, it does take a plan.
When was the last time we rezoned?
2012.
Where is the PRD district?
It's the manor.
It's the manor.
Oh.
Now, interestingly, one of the reasons why I'm not wild about that option, but it's certainly legally, again, it's easy. One of the tough parts about it is that even though you will eliminate townhouses from that area, that R2 district, or that part of the R2 district, I should say. That won't prevent people from building garden apartments or other types of multifamily.
Maybe tents.
In the same spot. So you may solve a town, you may not have townhouses there, but that's not going to mean you're not going to have multifamily in that district. And traditionally, people that don't like townhouses are going to be the same people that won't like garden apartments or other forms of multifamily. So if we're trying to, what it sounds to me like at the base of your concern is to try and create more consistency in that particular area. And since you already have a lot of single family, you've got a fairly large R1 district there. My second option or my second suggestion would be create more R1, because then if you shave off a part of the R2, you eliminate future multifamily across the board. And what you're really doing is you're adding to the opportunity for more single family, which is what the residents currently in the single family district want to see.
Since there's only 3 buildable lots left in the PRD district, you're pretty close to being in exclusionary zoning if you take multifamily housing out of R2.
Well, I thought about that, but and my initial reaction was the same as yours. It's almost it would become sort of a de facto exclusion. But if you think about it, I'm not sure legally that's true, because once you provide for the use and it's allowed, it doesn't mean that you have to allow for more and more of that use. So once you allow for multifamily in the PRD, it doesn't mean you have to keep creating more opportunity for more of that. Otherwise, you would constantly have to keep increasing the, So I think you've satisfied.
I don't buy that argument.
Well, okay. Here's the example I came up with when I was doing the analysis. Let's suppose we have to provide for adult bookstores, for example. So we have a district, and we allow for adult bookstores in that district. Does that mean that once one adult bookstore is in there, that anybody else who comes along and wants to build a second, a third, a fourth, or a fifth can claim it's exclusionary zoning if we only have one?
No, but he's saying if you designate the adult bookstores go into a place where it's already fully occupied, there's no chance for an adult bookstore to get in.
Right.
No, I'm saying we created this district and it's full of the use that we intended it for. The question is, are we just because we're excluding others from coming in doesn't mean that we've excluded the use from the township. We've just hit our quota, so to speak. So if we do allow the use.
I'm not interested in buying that lawsuit from somebody, a landowner developer in the town.
Anyway, that's the thought process. But again, I can. But I think and again, I do highly recommend we use a planner on any of the social and economic impacts. I do think that the problem that I'm hearing from the residents and the way I'm interpreting it is that they don't want multifamily in that section of the R2 district. And one way of avoiding that is eliminate the use.
Actually, I think I'm wrong. I don't think there's any buildable multifamily lots in the PRD district.
In the PRD or in the R2?
PRD.
Because you're saying the 3 lots that are left are those lots on Rock Ledge, and they're
Right,
not
they're
multifamily.
family.
You got one on Shady Lake. Shady Lake,
There's one there.
yes, there is. At the end of Shady Lake.
Well, but let's say we leave the PRD alone.
Well, that was your backup for saying we already have the coverage. You can eliminate it from R2 without excluding multifamily.
Well, you're still gonna, that's if you took it out completely. But if you just take what you have there now as an R2 and shave off, the second option, and just take a piece off of
Are
that
there
R2.
other forms of multifamily available? That's not gonna address the complaint that precipitated this exercise to begin with.
Well, yeah, because you'll have a larger area of R1 and a smaller area of R2.
But yes, if you just take just townhouses out, it does leave other multifamily uses.
Well, now you really have me confused. If you're taking townhouses out of R2, then you've taken them out of all of R2. You can't have R2 with townhouses in one part of the town and R2 without townhouses in the other part of the town. If it's R2, it's R2.
That's true. That's true.
And what about the expansion of the R1?
Well, no, I mean, that's, again, that's dealing, now you're not dealing with the use, now you're dealing with the zoning map. So now you're increasing at one area and decreasing.
If you take and say R2 can't have townhouses, anywhere R2
Right.
exists,
You wipe them out.
you wipe them out. Making a bigger R1 doesn't solve that problem.
Except I go back to the, now, you don't buy the argument, but my argument would be you still have townhouses and other multifamily in the PRD, which is logically where they belong.
Would anyone like me to point out some things on the map for everyone so we can like get a visual of where we're talking about?
Sure.
These are not very pretty colors, but this is PRD right here. That's the Manor neighborhood. So that's PRD. This here is the Weber Road area. So this is the section of R2 that we're talking about. R2 is here in this Weber Road area, and then it comes down and it's all this section over here, which is where Masonic is. So Masonic is situated right here. And this is Redgate. So one side of Redgate is over here. So this is R2 also. This is R1, which is the McCoy and South McCoy area. That's R1. So one of the thoughts would be to, you just discussed taking things out of the different zoning districts, but the proposal or another suggestion would be to change the zoning district, would be to make the Weber Road area here R1, just like the McCoy area, which is also single family homes. You could have the option of just cutting it off here and leaving this as R2 also. So it wouldn't totally, if you wanted to change this neighborhood, you wouldn't necessarily have to eliminate all R2 in the township. You could just change this neighborhood, cut your zoning line right here, and have another whole section that is R2 and make this one match.
Then you're into the whole cumbersome and expensive process of redrawing the zoning map. And all the public notice and public hearing and.
Yes, but does not taking in one designation out of that include the same process?
It's almost the same. There's an extra step when you change the map. There's one extra step to changing the map as opposed to amending the ordinance.
Where is Ferndale?
Ferndale?
The new development.
Oh, right here. Right in there.
Okay, so it's in that area.
It's in that area.
And that's the area that the residents have discussed.
Right.
Yes.
And other than the nuisance of having to change the zoning map, what are the drawbacks of expanding the R1 area?
Well, that's what you need a planner to come in and tell you what's the socioeconomic
What they're gonna do to the
implications of
value
making
of
that
it.
kind of a change. What does it do to your tax base?
If we get involved in doing some of these changes, it would require public meetings,
Public hearing.
hearings, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And again, my recommendation is you do both, because there ought to be a public education process as well as a legal hearing process. And we have done it before. One thing I do want to add, and Gwen reminded me of this, when we did this back in, 2012, with EPD as a consultant, there were education and hearings, and we did the whole thing. And But one of the things that I wasn't even aware at the time is these districts were not changed in that process. So what you have is a map today that looks very much like it did 30 years ago, not 5 years ago.
This Weber's Corner is the newest thing, and that's this one little attempt at a small community business district that changed. But this neighborhood's always, as far back as we can remember, has been R1. This one has been R2. So there was a little bit of confusion about what happened in 2012. It did not go to R2 in 2012. It stayed the same. And I found the older zoning map that confirms that.
Blame just my
But as
education.
part of the zoning process, did you go through the public hearing and?
Oh, yeah.
So the outcome was the conclusion at least 5 years ago, not changing the zoning was the most appropriate thing to do.
Correct.
So what's changed since then?
Sewage. The opportunity to have more houses. When this was done, sewage was contemplated, but it wasn't in. And so that's opened up more lots for development that wouldn't have supported multifamily before.
And that's a pretty significant change, right?
Right.
Yeah. Just my education, the orange crosshatch in the, what is that?
Weber's Corner. It's right at the corner of Weber Road and Glen Mitchell, and the thought was that it would be a
Right
tiny
by where
little
the fire
community.
station is?
Yeah, right across from the fire
Yeah.
station. Yeah, this little lot right here is the fire hall, and this is across the street. But during the process, single family homes were also allowed, and so homes have been built there. So it's very unlikely that it'll be a business district. It's still going to be family.
The planning thought was it would be nice as a community service if we could provide a little place for a convenience store or a general store where people could, maybe some of the workers at the
mill, we're gonna come down, go to the general store.
or if you'd stop on the way home for a quart of milk. But there was I don't know where it came from, but that was the thought.
Planning.
It was a planning
Planner.
thought. Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, and part of that came from this was zone commercial all the time too. So that's what people often said, well, you changed this from residential to commercial. No, this was a weird little commercial district anyway. So they were trying to find a use.
And we converted it from.
Wasn't that requested to be formalized as that?
As that,
What,
back in the 80s. This was
I
commercial.
thought that recently there was a township resident that requested that to be kind of permanently.
It already
known
was.
as that.
They did change the name and change the intent, but it had always been, this little strip along across the fire hall had always been commercial. Mhm.
In fact, traditionally, it was heavy commercial. It was actually allowed a lot of heavy commercial uses, and the change to this made it more of a light retail type of thing to accommodate a general store.
Okay, can somebody ballpark for me the cost of redrawing that map?
They're going through the whole process.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying, what's the drawback of expanding the R1 and everybody says, well, you need a planner involved. So what's that cost?
I would suggest that you bring in a planner more on a strategic level than on a bigger, and say, look, here's our problem. Our problem is we want more we're looking at more R1. What would that impact be? Could you, and have them focus on your problem. And more as an update, so to speak, of the 2012 analysis.
I don't know that we want more R1 because I don't know whether that's truly desirable in terms of people wanting to use their property in a particular way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So you're saying you don't know. I'm saying, how much does it cost us to answer that question?
I'm sure we're going to spend at least $25,000 or $30,000 on it.
Does that seem like where everybody else would be?
I can't really compare because the last time we did this, we redid the whole zoning ordinance. So I have no frame of reference for a particular issue.
Can you
And we also
ballpark?
did
Can you investigate that?
Sure. We're also a member of the Aleppo Sewickley Osborne Comprehensive Plan, which dictates that we need to make sure that our fellow communities are notified. We would have to notify adjacent communities if we're changing it just as part of the process, but we also just have to make sure that we have to give them an extra comment period. That's all. They can't weigh in and decide on our zoning districts for you.
Okay.
That's, well,
But
That's
they
better
get
perception.
notice, but they get notice.
they get notice, they get extra notice, but they cannot override any decision that you make.
Okay, let's go back to the question of cost. How much did it cost you when you overhauled the entire zoning ordinance?
I don't, it happened over a 6-year period, so I will have to add that up. I don't think it was $30,000, I don't think, and so I don't think that would be the cost of this. To have somebody come in and just analyze 2 zoning districts for us, I don't think it would be as
Well,
high as
no,
$30,000.
but what I hear Commissioner Darrow saying is he doesn't want to limit it to that narrow a concern of
I
R1
don't
versus
know.
R2.
If you start telling the general population of the town that we're thinking about redoing the zoning map, there might be a whole bunch of people with different ideas.
Would you like me to contact a consultant that we used in 2012 to come in and give, I can talk to them about some scope questions and we can try
Well,
and get
there's
something.
legal counsel cost as part of the process as well.
Yeah, but I have to say that my component on that is not as significant nearly as the planner, because they do a lot of the initial work. When I come in at the end, it's usually just to review the ordinance, make sure the hearings are noticed, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not minimizing my role,
Well, I'm
but
sure you'll be at the public hearings.
yes. The other thing, one thing we also keep in mind as part of this, I should point out, Sewickley is asking for a full review of our joint comprehensive plan, which does overlap to some extent with our zoning.
Yeah, they're supposed to be consistent with each other.
And so if we're going to go along with Sewickley and Osborne, who are our partners in the comprehensive plan, if we're going to do that, now I don't know where Osborne is on it, Glenn Osborne is on it, but that would also seem to me, rather than duplicate that, we would want to try to integrate the work we do there with a planner at that time. So rather than we go off and do a zoning analysis, a full zoning analysis, well, we're going to have to spend the money, or they're going to have to spend the money with us to do a comprehensive
Yeah,
plan.
but didn't we talk about next time we go into that comprehensive plan, having a zoner who was on a planner who was on our side anyhow?
Yes.
So then we kind of lose that synergy, don't we?
Unless you hire a consultant to attend the meetings on behalf of Aleppo, where we listen to the joint consultant.
Is part of the evaluation the impact on the value of the private property?
That's what he said.
Yeah. We're supposed to be looking out for the good of the general public.
Mm-hmm.
Do you consider this memo to be public, or is this something you want us to keep private?
That's up to you. I don't see it as a.
I think it's premature to share that.
Okay.
I think that's up to the board.
Well then, does anybody have any action to take here?
Yes, I'd like to hear from someone who is a professional in the zoning areas, like the people that we had a long time ago. And see if we,
So I consider that as a motion to have the consultant come pitch or come speak to us. Is that right?
yeah,
I'll second that.
yeah. I'm concerned about unintended,
Well, that's what Commissioner Nash should speak for you. That's what I understand Commissioner Dare to be saying as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is a understood concern. All right, so the motion is to ask the consultant that we used when we did this the last time to come back in and speak to us. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that point? Everybody understand what they're voting for? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Gwen, will you take care of that? Okay. We talked about that so long, my device went to sleep.
Township.
All right, township rebranding. I think we already, do we have anything else to say about this other than we
No,
talked about in
we had
Public
it
Works?
Public Works.
Goals. I'm thrilled to remind you that our first goal was to fix the chairs in the conference room so that they don't sink by January 31st, 2017. Has anybody's chair sunk tonight?
When I was here the other day sitting in the chair, it broke.
What?
Which one?
Remember, I was talking to you, I think it was that one, but I'm not sure.
Don't bring chairs in.
Has anybody's chair sunk?
No.
All right. Well, we're thrilled to announce that the guys installed hose clamps on these chairs on January 18th.
That's no, he fixed them.
Yeah. So if we've made it through a meeting, I'm going to call fixed chairs in the conference room so they don't sink by January 31st, 2017. Done. Met. Goal met. Our next goal is to install the projection system in the conference room by February 28th, 2017. You see we're, I don't know, 60% of the way along. All the equipment's in. It'll be done, the whole
Wiring will be done?
wiring will be done tomorrow, and then our consultant is coming in on Wednesday. So this time next month, we'll have a projection system. Just to peek ahead, don't forget we all promised Commissioner Williams that we were going to send him comments about the SWOT analysis. The goal is to have that finished by the end of March. Our Earth Day event by mid-April. That's well on its way. We're having a planning meeting for that on March 1st. Conversion to QuickBooks. Glenn and I are still working on that. It's a wrinkly road. A system for electronic archive of township documents by September 30th. Glenn and I are working on that as well. Still meeting with vendors. 4 non-meeting videos by December 31st. I met with a representative from Waste Management last week, and I'm 10% of the way finishing a video on trash pickup. If anybody has any other ideas for other videos later in the year, I'd love to hear them. Things that you think about, things that people ask you questions about when you're answering the phone, questions you get. Let me know if you have video ideas. And then Gwen kicks along this idea to create property files for the addresses in the township and populate those folders. What's that?
I'm just gonna keep kicking.
Gwen's just going to keep kicking. So those are our goals, and that's where we stand on them. All right, on to new business. Our first item is discussion of cars parking along Weber Road. What's this all about, Gwen?
I've gotten some calls from residents questioning people parking on the street along Weber, and they were concerned that it was a new development, meaning there was a new practice that people were parking on the street, and they wanted to know if that was a safety hazard. And in the past, we've talked about safety at the bends in the roads. Weber has one very big bend and then some other kind of curves. And we've talked in the past to the chief about possibly giving us the safety designation that we should maybe put signs up that say no parking between the signs so that people don't park on the bends in the road. But I didn't know if there was anything else that would need to be done on the straighter parts of the road.
Let's start with taking care of the curves and see if that helps.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get a letter from you saying that, the sight lines and stuff.
Yeah, and we have ordinances about not parking, and we don't, usually ordinances aren't come into play until someone complains about them. If you have one ordinance for one area, you gotta have it for the whole township. And you're somehow rural and people come and visit and come and stay and they park on the road, and there's also some studies that say when you have cars on the road, it actually slows traffic down.
Yeah.
So with that said, I agree with Glenn. You start in one area that's particularly bad area and put signs so between these signs you can't park on the road. So that's a suggestion.
All right, so I move that we ask the chief to provide us with a letter necessary to install no parking between signs.
Second.
Motion and a second. Does everybody understand what you're voting on? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. You take care of that for us, Chief? Thank you. All right, on to selling salt to Swickley Heights Manor Homes Association. Whenever you're ready, Glenn.
We were approached by the maintenance staff of the Swickley Heights Manor Association, and they were asking if it was possible for us to purchase the bulk salt for them to use. They're looking to buy a new piece of equipment, a new larger spreader, and right now the small spreader that they have to buy bags of salt and hand load them into the thing, the hopper. It takes a long time, so they were looking to see if they purchase the larger equipment, could they purchase the larger quantities of salt that would be easier to load, and they wouldn't have to make so many individual little trips. So they were just looking to see what the board felt about allowing that. Their estimate was something like 20 tons a winter, which is one triaxle load of salt. So it would not be a major, to compare, we buy 900 tons of salt a year. So.
And purchasing it through us is obviously saving money for them.
From what I understand.
And can they even buy in bulk?
Probably don't have a place to store it.
And I got a place to store it, number one.
So I'm glad you said, Tom. What's your opinion of this?
I mean, if it can be done, I mean, they're good neighbors to us, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, because we have the capacity, I mean, it's not like we can't, when you're talking one track, so what it's all.
Do you have a way of tracking whether they've taken more than their 20 tons?
Oh, it does, trust me.
Okay.
Are we gonna be selling it to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They would,
Do we sell to any other private property owners?
we do not.
I think that's something we would have to explore under the code, whether we're permitted to make private sales to private property owners.
All right, well then,
I mean, I'm not saying yes or no, it occurs to me that may not be within our rights.
you having expressed that concern is one of the exact things I said to Glenn when we talked about this. I don't know the answer to that. So my motion would be that we ask the commissioner to investigate whether it's
Solicitor.
permissible. What did I say, the commissioner? The solicitor. My motion is that we ask the solicitor to investigate whether it's permissible for us to sell salt to the mayor.
Second.
And or donate.
Well, since it may have an influence on the analysis, how much are we talking of? What kind of numbers are we?
20 tons.
20 tons.
Yeah, but price wise.
That's about $70.
Whatever
Average is $70
whatever our
a ton.
price is.
Huh?
Whatever our bulk
At our
price
price,
is.
yeah, which is average is about $70 a ton.
At cost.
At cost, yes.
$70 a ton at how many tons?
20.
20. Even I can do that. Okay.
Arlen, if it helps, the unit involved requesting the board to buy, it holds about 600 pounds. And he would be able to come over here and use the backhoe to fill it up with 600 pounds and then reimburse the township for that. If he needed 2 loads or 5 loads or whatever per year. But that's how he was figuring on paying for it.
All right, so the motion is to have the solicitor look into this. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Whoa, that's all the new business. Anybody else have any new business from the floor? Yes,
I don't know if this is new or old, but is anyone interested, any commissioner interested in attending the spring conference at Seven Springs? No, because I have to fill it out.
Where is it?
Seven Springs.
I've just gotten back from my trip.
Matt?
No.
No.
What's the content?
Stormwater management, records retention, roadway maintenance plan, help find funding for municipal projects, construction fundamentals, managing your pension assets, 5G wireless technology, and a special visit from Lieutenant Governor Mike Stack.
Scratch.
No? Okay.
I don't blame
Thank you.
But I'll be there.
All right. Any other new business?
Any question on new business for Gwen? Pensions?
I will have a proposal written out that analyzes the costs and the terms. I've been working with our actuarial consultant, so that'll be coming to next month's agenda.
Any other new business? All right.
Only thing I'd like to do is, would the three of you take your letters and write your contact information, both telephone and email address, please?
Citizen participation. Oh, boy.
Go ahead. Well, Art Capuzzi, Weber Road. First, I want to apologize if I interjected at the wrong time. Terry was going to send me up with duct tape on my mouth, but at any rate. I wanted to thank the chief for the study on Weber Road and thank you because we had spoken about it months ago. I would like to talk to you further about the situation, that can be done at your office or whatever. I'd like to welcome the new people to the township. I've been here almost 30 years and I would like to thank them for want to serve because I've been getting this close for the last month and a half. So thank you. The only real question I have for the solicitor, are we required to have so much zoning space? Like so much R2 and so much R1, or are we at some type of discretion to for our convenience?
Okay, so the answer is quantitatively, you don't have to give so much space to each district, but you do have to provide for all legal uses somewhere in the township.
Okay, that kind of answers the question. Secondly, I guess in the zoning, we have, a township isn't stagnant. It grows and changes. And we kind of have to change with the situations. And with all due respect, yes, other people might come in with other ideas, but that's what this forum is for, to discuss, and they may be beneficial to the township. I totally understand it's costly. We're not a big township. Signs on Weber Road, I'm kind of an anti-sign guy, and the only time I've ever seen them parked at the bend is if someone's having an occasion at their home. I don't see blatant parking, especially on the bends. But of course, I don't go up very high up the road. Tom knows how I'm just around that first bend. So short and sweet tonight.
All right.
The good news is I'll be away at the next.
We'll miss you.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow,
I'm
good.
retired now. I'll be around.
Well, let me echo back your thanks to everybody else. Let me thank you for coming as well. I appreciate having you here. I appreciate hearing what you have to say. We don't live out there, so we appreciate hearing somebody that's got eyes and ears out there.
Well, I've always been involved in some other things, but they were in communities I worked. And then when I was teaching, it was all for the children. I still go in and volunteer, but I would like to know what's going on in the township and what I can contribute.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Len Kinger. While everybody's here, I thought maybe it might be a good idea to get a legal decision on this. This is a letter that's addressed to the authority, and it'll come up at the meeting tomorrow, but it's a request for a reduction in water sewer bill. Now, my question to Harlan is, can the board offer an opinion or a reduction on water, sewer, and debt service, or is debt service up to the commissioners?
Who's the letter from?
Yeah, it's from Kathleen Hurd. She's requesting this, and she's has the power of attorney for her father who lived on Glenfield Road. and he's in a nursing home up in Newcastle. And apparently they had a toilet leak, generated a bill of something like $271. But she's requesting a reduction in this. Now, I assume that the authority has the power to make any adjustments as far as the water and sewer portion of the bill, but what about the debt service?
If she's on Glenfield Road, she does not have debt service. There's no sewer down on Glenfield Road, so there's no debt service down there.
Okay, that answered my, Harlan didn't even have to offer an opinion on it then. But okay, in the event, then in the future, let's put it that way.
Let's not give an advisory
No,
opinion.
no, when the future comes up, the future
Yeah,
comes
right.
up.
All right, okay, that takes care of it then.
Good. All right. Saw another.
Tom Jarvie, 108 Leewood Avenue.
You're different than the Tom Jarvie that was in here as the public works.
I'm as a property owner, Steve.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sure Commissioner Dudley, you're aware of the issue back on Glen Weber on Leewood Avenue. And I just wonder if the code enforcement officer is going to get involved in this situation that we have.
Well, why don't you, I mean, I am aware, but why don't you tell us, because I don't know if the other commissioners are aware.
Tom, if you could come up, I'm having a hard time hearing
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
I apologize. I wear hearing aids and my batteries must be dying.
We did get Gwen pictures that were taken years ago, what this place looked like. And what it looks like now is, I can't believe it's not condemned to begin with. And as
Near your house, what I saw.
you saw it
Okay.
yourself. I think it's unfair. You try to keep your properties up and you have somebody like that next door to you, which is so unsightly. I don't think it's fair being a property owner, and actually people out on Weber have complained, and Chief can say he knows them well.
Okay, so just to sort of put a bow around what you're asking, you say you want us to have the zoning the zoning
I would
officer
like
go
to
out.
see, yeah, and honestly say that that house is fit to live in.
Well, why don't we just have them go do an inspection in general?
Yeah.
How about that? So my motion is that we have the zoning officer go out and
With police.
that
Oh, yeah.
that doesn't need to be in the motion, does it?
No.
Have the zoning hearing officer go out and inspect the property located
What is that?
I think it's 104 that-
104 Legal.
on 104 Leetwood.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Do you know what we're talking about? Okay. Does anybody have anything else to talk about? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. All right, motion carries.
I'd like to thank the board. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And a brief comment outside the motion. This is almost a social services issue. I wonder if there are other agencies. So think about that.
I can talk about
Yep.
All right. Anybody else? Hearing a zoning officer to Leetwood. All right, then we are going into executive session at 9:01 p.m. to discuss litigation issues.
Make sure you leave my contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And we are,
Thank you.
we're going to go off the recording now. We will not come back on the recording when we come back in and we finish the meeting. Thank you all.